Uranium is the fifth full-length album from DAUÞUZ. This is a German black metal band and one that formed back in 2016. As they reach this sort of 5 album mark, their sound becomes more defined, and they sort of hit upon their best album yet back in 2021 or so with von Schwarzenschmied, which was their shift into pagan black metal in a lot of ways. The vocal register changed entirely. They put out a second version of it that had clean vocals and was kind of remixed and re-recorded in some aspects. So they'd kind of had their breakthrough moment that was pretty cool and pretty interesting. I don't know how well received it was back in 2021, but it felt like this huge leap and a realization that it was their knack. It was what they were really good at on that record. So if you're looking for precedents as to what they did in the past, that was maybe a more atmospheric form of black metal that was quite traditional, and it was focused on maybe almost a depressive or just a German black metal affect. It was conscious of the late 90s and 2000s era of that general scene. Essentially what happens on this record is they combine those two things. They combine the pagan black metal vocal exasperations and whatnot, and the ambitions of their earlier work, which was much more raw and direct in its atmospheric black metal reach, and use both of those things as tools to reach their narrative goal here, which is conveying the history of uranium mining, which is very much related to Germany and its scientific traditions. What we'll do here is we'll get to a song here and just get a sense for how this record sounds in general, and then maybe I'll pick apart what I like about this record and what I really don't like about this record. So I was a particularly big fan of their 2021 record, and I feel like that was the point to launch off of here. But what they've done instead is something that's more representative of the overall style of the band throughout the years. And so they've in some ways regressed back to some of those depressive black metal tendencies, with the harsher vocals reaching the point of shrieking more often. And it changes the tonal range of this record from being stuck down in the mines to the horror of being stuck down in the mines. So there isn't a historical feeling to this record. There's a horrified, depressive touch to this record that is ghastly and kind of terrifying in its register. And so there's a certain dramatism to it that's very effective, but the over-the-top use of vocals in many different registers begins to really interrupt the feeling and the flow of the record around Radon Quill 1666, which is maybe the most dramatic and jarring piece on the record, whereas the rest of the songs are fairly consistent and develop their melody through the marriage of vocal melodies and rhythm guitars. So that becomes the strength of the album, is those melodic rhythm guitar arcs and the choruses and verses they build around those movements. What will stand out is the personae and the exaggeration of the vocals otherwise. So it makes for an experimental feeling record. It makes for one that has a unique tone to it, but also something that I couldn't really find myself connecting with outside of my still lingering appreciation for their past work and what still shines through on this record. So there are elements taken from their past releases that all feed into this record, and you can still appreciate those traits as they work together naturally. There's just a couple of moments on here that were just outside of my taste level, or just what I would generally put up with in terms of performance. A moderately high recommendation for this one. I think this is an interesting introduction to the band that is not as effective as their last two official releases, but it covers the bases more in terms of if you want to know what their earlier records sounded like, what their most recent records sounded like, and how those things can work together for one unique personality. I think they pull that off here. I think they go a little bit over the top and get a little bit weird with it, but it wouldn't have been quite as interesting if they hadn't caught my ear in that way. So I appreciate the unique character of the band in that respect. So that releases today, April 30th. Go ahead and check that out yourself and see what you think. And maybe you're more in tune with German black metal and you have comments that would make more sense than mine. So read my review if you like more of my thoughts otherwise.